The information provided by Taming Lightning is designed to provide helpful information and to educate on the subjects discussed. The information provided is true and complete to the best of our knowledge and is not intended to be used without professional guidance and supervision. All recommendations are made without guarantee on part of Taming Lightning and affiliates. Taming Lightning and affiliates disclaim any liability in connection with the use of this information. Taming Lightning podcast is supported by the Pittsburgh Glas Center, a non-profit public access glass studio and one of the top glass facilities of its kind in the U.S., with a knowledgeable and friendly staff and a safe, fun atmosphere. Our community is made up of artists, collectors, students, or just those fascinated by glass. Depending on your interests and schedule, there's a class for you, be it a 2-hour introductory workshop, 8-week classes, or 5-day summer intensives taught by artists from all over the world. And before we get going on the episode here, I'd like to mention a support option for Taming Lightning, which is Ko-fi. That's ko-fi.com/taminglightning. This will be replacing the Buy Me a Coffee option used previously, as I wanted to switch to something that's been around a bit longer and work better for presenting my content. With this, you're basically donating or giving a tip at the cost of a $3 cup of coffee based on how you think I'm doing, and if you like the project, it's nice to support it. Your donations go directly to the podcast for means of assisting with audio equipment upgrades, billing or hosting, software and services used in processing the audio, and future travel and professional content. You're by no means obligated to donate, but any support, including commenting and sharing, is appreciated. Welcome back, or welcome to the Taming Lightning podcast. I'm Percy Eccles II. I'm the creator and host of Taming Lightning, as well as the emerging plasma tech at Pittsburgh Glas Center. Taming Lightning podcast features a series of conversations to help expand our understanding of plasma and neon light, looking beyond its associations with novelty and sign making, and to explore the potential for noble gases as an artistic medium. The intro is Boost by Joachim Krud. Joachim is a Swedish artist who loves to create chill and happy music, and does so for copyright-free use. Be sure to support his music by giving credit when used, subscribing, and/or by donation via Patreon. You can find him on Facebook, YouTube, SoundCloud, and Spotify. Hello, Lightning Tamers. This is episode 14. In today's podcast, we have artist and maker Danielle James, a.k.a. DJ Neon, who is currently based in Raleigh, North Carolina, as an apprentice at Glas Studio. She is known for her series Signs of the Times, A Single Lady's Life in Neon, which draws from most memorable moments and online messages from the personal experiences of women using modern online dating services. We hear about her artistic background in metals and jewelry, her neon origin at Glas, and more. All right, Danielle, thank you for coming onto the podcast and sharing a bit of your time with me for our guest here.
Well, thank you for having me. My name is Danielle James. I'm a neon artist out of Raleigh, North Carolina. I work out of a shop, a Nate Schaefer neon shop called Glas, with one S. I'm his apprentice, and I've been there for just over, it'll be 3 years coming up soon, I think. And I'm originally from the Northeast. I'm originally from Delaware, and I actually have both my degrees in metalsmithing, so glass is definitely something that's new in the last few years anyway.
So in regards to Glas, is it Glas or Glas Studio?
It's just Glas, but I like to add, it's kind of vague. Sometimes people are like, well, what does that mean? So I like to add either shop or studio. But it really is just a place where there's about 6 of us that work there, and we're all kind of creative in our own unique ways, and we all kind of collaborate and work on, client projects or custom pieces for gifts or stuff for breweries or restaurants. Really, anybody who comes in who has an idea, we can kind of make it happen. We do repairs too. I mean, I end up doing a lot of some of the repairs because it's kind of part of my apprenticeship.
Mm-hmm.
I learn how to do that, which is kind of cool. So we kind of do a little bit of everything.
Of the work that you get into the shop, what's kind of the ratio? Is it more repairs or more production or?
We're really lucky because we have a major client in Live Nation, which is a company that, for anybody who doesn't know, Live Nation, they're the largest entertainment company in the world. And so they have very deep pockets. And they like cool stuff, and they like having cool stuff in their venues, and we make cool stuff. So, my boss, Nate Schaefer, and his collaborator and friend Louis, St. Louis, have a good partnership, or have a good relationship with some of the creative directors at Live Nation. And so we've been fortunate enough to have pretty solid amount of work with them, and it all changes. Like for the Ritz and Raleigh, which is a really great music venue, we did we redid their whole VIP lounge, and it's now called the Stella Artois VIP Lounge, and we made a bunch of two really large chandeliers out of just Stella Artois bottles. So sometimes it doesn't involve neon. Most of the time it does. We put a lot of neon in the Ritz as well, but we do wallpaper, we do bar tops, we do resin work, so that it all kind of goes into that. That kind of work is probably, I'd say, 50 to 60% of what we do, interior wise, and then the rest is walk-ins, clients who want specific signage. So a lot of times it's I'd say about 50-50 neon to interior design kind of stuff.
Nice.
And then really the repairs is minimal. It really doesn't happen as often. We tend to, I was actually listening to the Mondo Neon podcast with Blaze, and he was talking had a really good point about like, a crappy, neon sign that isn't, Budweiser sign isn't that, valuable to me, but it could be really valuable to somebody emotionally or personally. So those are the kind of repairs we love to do, because it makes people kind of really understand a little bit more about what we do, and it educates people, and then they usually go off and tell their friends who all have broken neon signs from their grandfather or their, frat house or their whatever things that are happy memories. And I like to help people turn those lights back on. Those are fun jobs, but they really don't happen as often as other major kind of projects we work on.
Right. And I do enjoy Mondo Neon's podcast. He has a really good selection of guests, and he really knows how to ask us questions too.
Yeah. I just started I just listened to the Kate Hush one, and so I'm just going kind of in random order, but it's nice. I'm actually really surprised there aren't more neon podcasts. Like, it's such a rich topic that I think there's room for a lot of people like yourself and other kind of versions of it. So, it's really cool to get to hear people that I kind of, see their work all the time, and you feel like you kind of know people, but because it's such a small community, which is great, but we don't actually get to do face-to-face time most of the time because we're all in different areas.
Right. And it's kind of interesting. I guess one reason why we don't see a lot of these podcasts is now is about the time where people are kind of a little bit more open to discussing and talking about it. I mean, even if you jump back about 10 years back, there's probably a little more resistance towards even that type of sharing. Plus, everyone keeps busy, No,
yeah, you're totally right. And I'm so new that I'm super naive to that. Nate talks about that all the time because he taught himself when he got out of college. So he had a few mentors that kind of gave him head starts and things, but I'd say about probably 80% of what he knows he learned from trial and error. So And he talks about, vendors in other shops turning their backs to him when he was watching them bend, and things like that. So I am very lucky that I'm basically we're an education, neon education place is just as much as we are an actual functioning shop, because it's important to tell people how much craft does go into and art does go into making something, even if it says Budweiser.
So how did you actually get into neon?
Where I grew up, there's a lot of residual neon left over, and just going to Ocean City and going to a lot of times, I would go to New York frequently, and Philadelphia has a really great amount of neon still left over, and I just have always kind of, it's the glow has always been interesting, and I'm a really big film buff too, and all my favorite movies are just neon, everywhere. It's like Blade Runner, Blues Brothers, every Rodriguez movie. There's a lot of opportunities for cinematography with neon that aren't available. It's like it was the light that really, I think, got me, but I wasn't aware at all that it was something that was possible to be doing for a living. So I ended up on the path of jewelry and metalsmithing, which was actually ended up being a pretty great preface to this, because I got the fine motor skills. I got the art history background. I got the design, the color theory. I got, exposure to fire and torches and gas lines and all the things that we use. It's just the material changed. So, we anneal things in metalsmithing all the time. So the idea of annealing glass so that it didn't crack when you were trying to do certain things to it made sense. It was just it's different. It's the different, use the fire differently in different ways than you do with non-ferrous metals. So I do feel like that definitely helped. But the short answer is I sold Nate a necklace for his wife for, I think it was her birthday or Christmas. And we kept in touch, and I would just keep asking questions. And Nate is a really good educator, and so he would always get back to my emails. And I actually was in Arkansas when he started this shop, and I was in an administrative job, and I loved it. It was an art administrative job, but I really felt like I wasn't doing metals, and I wasn't doing really much else creatively. And I felt like I was helping everyone else's art career except for mine. So I saw the opportunity when Nate opened the shop here in North Carolina via Instagram. And I just kind of asked if he needed an apprentice or if he needed help just to help get the shop up and running. And took him a few days, but then he said, sure. But yeah, in my graduate degree for metals, I did do a 2-week intensive, weird, plopping myself in the middle of Greg Brenner and Brenner's shop in Atlanta, where I basically just found him and called him and asked if he needed someone to sweep the floors for 2 weeks, and would maybe let me get in the fires once while I was there. And he was, I think, a little confused, but agreed to it. And so that 2 weeks really stuck with me. And I went on to do more jewelry stuff, but I still always wondered if I could get back into glass. And so when I saw Nate's shop opening up and doing all the cool stuff they were doing, it just felt right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It almost sounds very similar to, I can't remember if you said you listened to the Blaze Pearson episode of Mondo Neon, but it was a very similar vein with his beginnings in neon. He kind of really just like forced himself into it, but really just found a place to start out with and ended up doing it. So
Yeah, it's funny. I've listened to his podcast and I was trying to think because I have like the memory of a goldfish, and so I was like, what years was I there? Because he said that he would be there, but I never got to meet him while I was there for the 2 weeks. So he must have been out of town or something. But yeah, we didn't cross paths at that point. But I did get to see Greg again. It was pretty funny. I got to see Greg again during the little seminar that Brooklyn Glass put on a couple months ago, which was a lot of fun. And I got to meet a lot of the ladies from She Bends that I got to be in the show in San Francisco with them, but never actually got to meet them face to face. So that was cool too.
Yeah, how did that start? The She Bends, your invitation. Did you end up from that moment, or was it just kind of like a contact from over, Instagram or email or something like that?
Well, they had the first show outside of LA in I believe the Neon Museum,
Mm-hmm.
And I was not involved in that at all. I don't think I had even started working in Neon, or was definitely not good enough to be in a show yet. And I started doing the series that I think I'm kind of now known for a little bit, which is The Signs of the Times, A Single Lady's Life in Neon, which is the excerpts from messages that men have sent me over the internet via either Tinder, OkCupid, or other various websites. And so I was kind of marketing that out in the world and putting that on Instagram and getting a lot of really great results. And Meryl, I think she just saw it and wanted to, I think she added about 4 more people to the San Francisco lineup. And so I was one of those 4 people, the second show.
It's a very powerful set of work that is kind of laughed at, but then it's like really serious how ridiculous the experience can be.
Yeah, it's funny because when I first started it was not meant to be anything profound. It was really just Nate. We don't work in a shop that has production work really, so it's not like I can just practice on a bunch of Coca-Cola signs anymore, like a lot of people learned, a lot of older people older than me. So Nate kind of worked with me to get a show together in 1 year. It was kind of a good motivator, and I did other stuff around the shop as well, and worked on patterns and worked on blacking out, painting blackout, but I just I always had this joke that I kind of kept in my back pocket for parties when it almost would always happen that the girls in the party would end up talking about what, bullshit somebody said to them yesterday or the day before. And I would always bring up the guy, it was years ago, that while I was in school asked me one sentence, and it was, why you not want kids for? And because it says on my profile, I'm not interested in having children, and because it's an important thing when you're trying to find somebody to spend your life with, to know that. And it was just like this kind of really short, sweet, to the point, and just had so much context. There was so much that could be done with just those words. And so I kind of made the joke of it that to Nate, oh, what if I did the why you not want kids for? And Nate was like, no, that's a great idea. So I ended up making that one. I sold it immediately. And then I made another one. And each one of them has a different background image. I enjoyed working on the backgrounds almost as much as I really enjoy designing the neon, because it can lend itself so much. I like painting. I'm pretty good at designing kind of more, this whole series is more like 1950s-esque signs, and I really enjoy that style. So that was kind of fun there's like a martini shaker sign that says, what are you mixed with? That one had a resin poured background. That was kind of a cool challenge. That had glitter, and it was very bright and very Vegas. And then there was one that said, do you shave? And it was a very like R. Crumb style leg coming out of like a cloud almost, and it has like a bright red, ruby red shoe, and lavender leg with all these finely painted hairs that are like little sprinkles. So I do have a lot of fun with the backgrounds too, and kind of doing more multimedia stuff. That's, I think, where my metalsmithing background comes back. And like, there was one that said, I play a lot of Dungeons and Dragons, and I made that one a challenge in 2 ways. I put scales all over it in copper scales.
Ooh.
And also the Dungeons and Dragons is in the same font that Dungeons and Dragons uses, which was a good challenge for me pattern-wise to try and get stuff. Especially it's a serif font, so it's challenging, and it was in a certain color. So all those things were new to me. So it was that one was pretty hard, but I was very happy with how it turned out.
Yeah, I'm looking at your work and then just kind of seeing it and you hearing you talk about it. I mean, it's encapsulating the entire repertoire of someone working today in a neon shop. I mean, you're working in fabrication. Sometimes you're setting up backgrounds, you're putting things together, you're installing, you're sometimes custom printing or custom making things. And so it's just that you're embodying the whole package throughout your work.
Yeah, and that was just the way that we decided that my apprenticeship would kind of start out, because, in the beginning, we didn't really have a ton of stuff coming in that I could practice on. I mean, besides splicing and splicing and splicing. But it's a very good motivator for me to have a deadline and a show, because I've curated shows before. Like I said, I've done administrative stuff. Deadlines are like, I don't know why, but if I have one, I'm way more productive than if I'm just randomly making stuff. So even though that's fun too sometimes, but I wouldn't have made these, currently working on these animated set of women's eyes rolling back. I wouldn't have made those, I don't think. It's maybe not as, I would have made them eventually, but they wouldn't have become a tangible thing this week if it hadn't been for the She Ben show in Milwaukee.
Right. I mean, having a deadline, having shows is a nice motivator. I mean, and it looks like from the sound of it, the environment doesn't impede your willingness to create, as some people might think of it as they try to kind of engage a hobby or develop themselves as an artist.
Yeah, we do a lot of stuff, and so it's kind of like you have to really go along with the flow. And sometimes pieces of projects have been in the shop for a year before they go out the door and get eventually into wherever they'll be for their forever home. Like it's actually the perfect job for me and my personality type. I had a really amazing professor in undergrad. Her name was Christina Miller. And I think she realized right away, I didn't do well in my first metals class. I got a D. She realized, I think, pretty quickly that I was pretty ADD and pretty hard to get to focus. And she kind of gave me some of the best advice I've ever gotten as a creative person, in that if I can't focus for a certain amount of time on one thing, then I need to be working on 16 things. And then using my little bursts of energy on each individual thing and not getting bored, because that would ultimately end up happening is I would get bored, frustrated, and break or melt something. And so with what we do at Glas, it's perfect because we're working on what feels like 400 things at the same time. It's a little bit of an organizational nightmare sometimes, but it's a good challenge. And it's never boring.
Yeah, it's definitely finding the right way to cycle through things, and you're juggling in a good way. Like personally, I'm shifted away from Glas so much in a way that it's kind of, I use my day job as a measure to a reason not to do certain things, but I am shifting myself back into working more, and definitely my residency has been a big influence on that.
Sure. Yeah, it is hard too on the same side of the coin. It's like when you're bending glass all day for somebody else's project, it's hard to like go get a beer and get some dinner and then tell yourself, I'm going to go back there and do some more for my own personal stuff. When all you want to do is go home and like, catch some Netflix stuff or whatever. But
right on.
Yeah, it just, I mean, I'm getting to the point now where I'm almost there, like where I can watch stuff and bend, which is stupid that I probably everyone that listens to this is going to be like, how dare you? But it's Nate has been doing it for so long that he can watch a full length movie and pay attention to all of it and bend some crazy wonderful thing. So it's yet another challenge that, and it's stuff that I'm working on my personal stuff. So if I mess it up, I mess it up. It's not going out to a client. So
right.
Yet.
I mean, is that something that you're kind of working towards, the artist that has people that want to buy your stuff immediately, or, what's your projected future, I suppose?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, I'm always going to make stuff. It's just, I think right now I have a few people who I would say are collectors of my work. They kind of check in from here every once in a while and ask me what new stuff I've got going on. And I'd like to see more of that for sure. And I'm really loving exhibiting neon in galleries because it's kind of not fair, honestly, to like being in She Bends was great because you're with a bunch of other neon. There's no, painting next to your neon. And then I always just feel terrible when you're in like a group show and you bring a giant flashing light in to like a big white room.
It steals all the attention.
It's almost not fair. So it is really nice to be in neon shows. I'd like to see more specific. I know there was recently one on the West Coast that I wasn't able to go see. It was a plasma show, I think. I'm making this up, and I don't know. I don't know what it was.
It very well could have been. I mean, shoot. We've had a couple shows like that pop up recently, especially with the Plasma Art Alliance kind of getting into full swing here and kind of really trying to establish themselves with their website and development.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's I definitely couldn't, like, I think my least favorite thing about jewelry, I always felt like I was trying to prove to people that the jewelry I made was worth the money that I was asking for it. Specifically because, people are used to buying jewelry at Walmart and they're used to, obviously I'm not talking to the right clients, but for some reason jewelry has like this, it doesn't, even if you have something that's like handmade silver, it's still like, it's gold or nothing a lot of times for a certain price point for people. Yeah, and so you're making like a $300 necklace out of copper, but you spent like all this crazy time into it, which is what my work usually is. Mm-hmm. It's copper still. People don't want to pay $300 for copper. They want gold. And I have a lot of mining and ethical stuff that I don't touch because it's got gold, unless I buy it specifically from a certain place that you don't know where it's coming from. There's just it's messy. And so I never really wanted to work with it. So it just felt like neon, I've never had to do that. I've never had to kind of explain myself as far as here's the work, here's what it's worth. And it's like okay, absolutely, sure. No, I totally get that. It's strange. It's a material difference that I've noticed in people being willing to spend more money on versus jewelry.
It seems like there's still that mystery about neon that kind of keeps it like rare and kind of like ups the value. And I think a lot of people just think it's too simple when they look at metal jewelry, and therefore the only thing they can attribute value to would be something of rarity.
Yeah, and it's like something where like everyone's like, oh, my grandma makes jewelry too. And I would always get these people who would like want to show me whatever relatives' jewelry they had on their phone. That never happens with neon. And it sounds really horrible, but it's nice to for other, like, to not have to prove that your stuff is worth what it's worth to people, because it's almost like an inherent it's like an inherent thing that like, this is glowing, this has got science in it. And I'm just like, there's science in all the metal stuff that all these amazing craftspeople make, but I watch a lot of people struggle, friends and colleagues struggle with like educating people, because it's not quite there yet, but you can buy neon at Walmart or whatever, like Target or Marshalls, but it's still LED most of the time. So it's not even the same kind of light. So, and I think people always kind of, it'll be an elevated hierarchy for sure, but.
For sure, yeah.
I definitely became attracted to the fact that the business person in me realized very quickly that I could spend a whole week making one piece that I could sell faster than the equivalent, which would be like 4 production necklaces and 3 pairs of earrings. That would take way longer. And I'd be making I would be spending more time working to pay bills than to work to make creative decisions and solve problems and do more interesting things. And I think that's the balance that I'm trying to find.
Mm-hmm.
So what is because I have, it's so funny, I have like my entire jewelry studios in my spare room in my house, and I really haven't messed around in there in a really long time. I have like this super like almost like Catholic guilt about it. I just like walk by the room and like close the door a little bit. But I wasn't paying my bills by making jewelry, and I'm doing that with neon. So unfortunately, it's taken a back seat, but it'll come back again.
Yeah, it's there. You're working on it bit by bit, even if you're not physically doing it as much. It's on your mind, and that's the thing that's important.
I keep telling myself I'm making brooches for the wall. It makes me feel better inside.
That could be its whole own thing, and it just adds a new type of element of whatever,
Yeah, it's funny. It's actually
art.
Like the reason I contacted Nate and the reason I contacted Greg was because I was actually trying to make miniature neon jewelry at first, because I didn't understand the science. I didn't understand that it wasn't really possible or safe. But because I was in the scale I was trying to pull off, it wouldn't have been possible. But then I got connected with all these amazing people, and here we are. So jewelry, it wouldn't have happened if I hadn't been in that program.
Yeah, that's awesome. So kind of getting back to neon again.
Sure.
It's kind of weird to ask this question now, but what's your favorite part about working with neon? I feel you kind of already answered that, but I think there's something different about this question that you'll have a different answer for.
My favorite thing about working in neon is like the feeling you get when you make a good splice. which is getting more frequent now that I'm getting a little bit better. The feeling you also get when you like use a whole stick of glass well and you've measured it and you planned it out and there's no waste. I'm such a hippie, and like when I was first starting out, I just threw away so much glass, and I had so much, again with the guilt of just wasting material, and we would have clients come in and Nate would give them the whole history and say that there used to be hundreds of colors available in neon, and now we're down to about 100, and I'm just thinking to myself, and I just threw away 16 sticks of this color because I can't get this double back right. But that's how you learn.
Yeah.
It's really just overcoming that, like, I can't fucking do this feeling, which is all the time. And when you get it, and it's like better than dark chocolate. I don't know. It's like the best feeling.
Better than dark chocolate. So you're a chocolate fan then. So you love dark chocolate, right?
We have a chocolate drawer in the shop. It's important. And there is always if there's ever a empty chocolate drawer, things start to get ugly.
Yeah, I just saw a pretty sexy splice from God, what's his name? Some guy that's overseas. He was doing a splice on a bend with a single-headed torch.
Oh wow!
And it was like the smoothest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, YouTube will make you crazy sometimes if you watch like I said, watching Nate. I walked in one weekend and Nate was watching the entirety of Deer Hunter while bending some crazy nonsense, and I'm just like, maybe one day. But when we teach, we actually have classes. We teach beginning neon bending at the shop as well on Tuesday nights for 6 weeks. So student can come every Tuesday for 6 weeks and for about 3 hours, and we go through the process of a little bit of history, what's possible, what colors we have, what backgrounds are possible, what other students have done, and then they get into the fires slightly after designing the piece. I help them make the pattern, and then we do a lot of the actual bending that ends up in the final piece, because 6 weeks isn't very long at all for anyone to learn anything, especially when it's only 3-hour increments. But we like to say that the student walks away with a complete knowledge of how the process works, and then they assemble it themselves on the last day and get to take at home. So it's a lot of fun because I get to assist with the class, and so I get, every time we have a new class, it's like this, it's the same information, but it's almost like improv, because you get a little bit more info every time the class comes through, because different people ask different questions. So. Right.
And speaking of that teaching and of the class, do you feel like you get a little bit inspired, even though you're getting people that have oftentimes never touched a thing, by their ideas, by the things they want to try to accomplish?
Yeah, we had a student, she's actually a good friend of mine, come. She's taken the class twice. The second time she made a Blackbeard flag neon sign, which is pretty great. It's like a skeleton with a harpoon that's going into a heart, and it has little drips coming down from the heart. And she brought in a bunch of her old wood flooring, and we assembled it in like a kind of a rough way. It kind of looked like someone had like pulled a chunk out of like the hull of a boat, and then we covered it in highly flammable everything, and then lit it on fire a couple times, and it made like the coolest background for her pirate sign, and that gave me a really good idea to do that to one of my pieces for the online dating series. I did one that was more of a general, wasn't specific message, but it was more of a general online dating kind of commentary, and it's a giant penis that says Unsolicited Cocktails Lounge. And so that whole background was lit on fire, which was pretty hilarious to videotape, giant penis on fire. But it had a real great, I wanted it to look older, and I wanted it to look kind of gritty and kind of like the floor of a shitty bar, or like just the, anybody who's gotten a surprise penis picture in their phone messages I just wanted it to like feel gross and just like invasive almost, and like feel like the colors I picked were, bright and kind of affronting. And but I got that idea from the background from working with Rachel on her Blackbeard piece. So yeah, totally, all the time. I mean, that was my favorite thing about teaching jewelry or anything like that is I would always get ideas from my students. And it was like, I did adjunct teaching for a while, which if anybody's done adjunct teaching, they know it's basically slavery. And when you're a creative person and you're not getting paid what you should be getting paid to do, you find payment in other ways. And I honestly have many pieces that I've made that came out of an idea that a student half baked up that I kind of took a while away and refined it and it to fit into whatever I was doing at the time. So yeah, it's just another way to brainstorm, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I get the same experience, I get the same feeling when I teach the Glas Center here. There's always something different someone's thinking about, and I try to hold on to those ideas and see where they grow.
Yeah, and it's also kind of fun to see like the people that come in with kind of a boring, like for lack of a better word, like kind of a boring idea, or an idea that's just like, I like Rick and Morty, so can we do a Rick and Morty sign? It's fun to get those people out of that, I just want to copy something else that I saw on the internet, and get them more into what do I actually want to make and create, and that sometimes people surprise themselves about what they're able to come up with and kind of edit out, and doing that in a way that's not mean or a lot of times we just kind of hide behind that's a trademarked image, so yeah, we can't do that. But yeah, that's fun. It's fun to like get people out of their creative comfort zone, especially when most of our students are, professional, usually business people who, do a lot of cubicle work or, work from home.
Well, the last thing I was going to kind of pull up here was to talk about the recent piece that was rejected. If you want to talk about that.
Shit.
You don't have to if you don't want to. No,
it's okay. No, we came to a good. So what happened was, I'm going to a conference. I won't say who it was, but I'm going to be speaking at a conference, and basically I was invited by the conference, and the conference has about six to 10, I want to say, I'm somewhere in there, artists coming, and we all get a show in the downtown's art center, which is a really nice restored building with a beautiful gallery, which is where a lot of the other events take place. And so it's kind of where you can see everybody's work before they have their talk. And so that gallery is owned by the city and not by the conference. Conference just rents it. And so there was not a communication between the conference and the gallery about the content of my work. I had a feeling that would happen. And so because I've worked in a gallery before, and everything is just easier when you're up front, I sent a message saying, hey, these two pieces are left over from the San Francisco show that I was in, the Sheep Ends show. They're still over there. And I was kind of trying to kill two birds with one stone because with neon, shipping can be expensive. Mm-hmm. And I was basically going to fly out, pick up the pieces, drive them to this conference, and then ship them back from the conference. And then if they came back broken, it's fine. We can fix them because we have the shop. Mm-hmm. But at least I'd get to show actual neon instead of, images of it. And so I sent a very nice message to the gallery director and said, hey, just want you guys to be aware. My work, one of these pieces is a giant penis, and the other one said, it was another message from the internet that is actually probably the worst one in my opinion, and it says, I'd love to eat your pussy sometime and talk politics. And it has a big cat on it. And so those two definitely are the most, I'd say, non-political, like not safe for work right. Ones, which, wouldn't have been my first choice, but since they were already over on the West Coast, that was what I was going to submit. And so at first they were like, well, we'll see what we can do. Maybe we can put up a curtain and we'll put a thing out that says, 18 and over content, trigger warning, whatever you have to do. And they came back and they were like, yeah, we're not showing these. And I was like, So it's funny because we talked it over and we ended up, I'm going to show my pieces in a little pop-up show that's going to be in my hotel room, which is going to be probably pretty fun, and I'll get to do a little PSA about it during my talk. So, and it's the same hotel where all the other conference, the artists talking at the conference also stay. So it'll be cool. I'll be a little bummed that my work isn't represented in that gallery with everyone else's. My jewelry will be there, but not neon. And so it's interesting to see the reactions to things, especially when I feel like a lot of people just think that everybody's cool with everything, but it's, I definitely do take for granted the very open-minded and supportive community that I work in every day, because I've had people come up to me and thank me for making this series of work. I have a lot of women come up and tell me that they've had shared experiences, and all different types of people, women, all types of age, any diverse group of people. And so it sucks, but it also means that I'm doing something right. I think that it's agitating certain people who would rather not think about those things, and would rather things be just landscape paintings of cows.
Right. It's bringing it to light, not to be too corny, but
well, no, it is, and it's kind of making fun of things, and I like to say making money from morons. But it's a thing that almost every single woman that I've talked to has some kind of crazy horror story about just trying to find somebody to hang out with via the avenues in which we are predisposed. Yeah. So we do everything. We do everything on the internet. It's funny to me. I grew up with online dating. I think high school boyfriend was the last one that was somebody that I knew. And it's something that's just been part of my life since I was young. And I don't find it, when I talk to people who are above my age and who are maybe been married for a long time or have never done it, it's an alternate, it's an alien world to them, and it's kind of fun to see that reaction, because people are people said this to you? It really said this to you? It's hard for people to believe, but I've lived with it so long that it's good. It's good that people have that reaction, because it means that they're learning something, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if that trickles down into one less dick pic out in the world, unsolicited dick pic.
Right.
You can have a dick pic, I don't care. Then good. Because harassment's harassment no matter what web browser you use.
So true. So true.
But I also want to also make a point to we talked about a few of them, like the Dungeons and Dragons one. There's another one that says "You seem super rad," and it's that one I made look real like 50s kind of crazy, and they're not all terrible. Some of them are just awkward and kind of cute and funny, and I'm not trying to demonize any one group of people, just documenting my experiences in this way because this is my job. I think there have been people, especially with the Why You Not Want Kids For one, we had like a group of guys come through and their reaction was pretty great. Because one of them had like a really creepy baby in the background, like from like some old ice cream advertisement or something. And it really, I think, grossed those guys out, and I was pretty proud of that. But yeah.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for taking the time to record with me here for the podcast. Where can we find you on the internet?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. Most of my most updated stuff is on Instagram under D_J_neon. And then if you want to look at my jewelry stuff or my just random stuff, it's the same thing, but metal instead of neon, D_J_metal. And then djneon.com, I think, is the website. And then also check out Glas's website, which is glas.work. That's where you can see all the cool projects that we do all over the place, and check out more information on the classes if you're local. Or if you're not local, we had a lady drive up from Atlanta every week once. So yeah, it's popular.
Sweet deal.
Well, and thank you very much for inviting me.
The outro is The Process by Lakey Inspired. Jordan, aka Lakey, is a Los Angeles-based artist with the goal of inspiring others to create by sharing positive music around the world. Thus, he works hard to produce music every week for copyright-free use. So be sure to support his music by giving credit when used, subscribing, and/or by donation via Patreon. You can find him on Instagram, YouTube, SoundCloud, and Spotify. Thank you for listening to the Taming Lightning podcast. I'd like to thank DJ for taking the time to record for the podcast and sharing a piece of her story. I'm excited to meet her in person with Nate Schaefer at the Glas Studio, along with Bruce Suba for the Glass Plasma Parlay in the coming 4th of July weekend, where I hope to meet new faces and expand and share about plasma. Also, I'd like to thank Pittsburgh Glass Center for supporting me as a place of research and inspiration, as well as encouraging me to pursue this project, and the Plasma Art Alliance, where I have an access to a well of knowledge and connects me to some amazing people. If you'd like to support Taming Lightning, subscribe to our newsletter at www.taminglightning.net or follow on Instagram at Taming Lightning. Other options for support are donations through Ko-fi, spelled ko-fi.com, where you can donate for the price of a $3 cup of coffee. Links will be provided in the show notes, so feel free to share, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.